Well, good afternoon. When I got asked to come out here, I had to think of two things. One, why did I get a phone call to come out here? I may lose my East Coast card here. I know I've moved to the Midwest, but admitting to you that we've always looked up to California. We've always said, every fire book we have says, a lot of the great things we do started here in this state. So what does someone like me have to offer you? And the thing that came up is whether it's being in the wrong place at the wrong time, right place, right time, whatever you want to take, my life experience and some of the things that I've seen, I think they're applicable to this state. They're applicable to what you're doing, and they really do focus on the technology aspect of how we can leverage technology to be better at what we're doing. So what I really wanted to touch on today, I know you've heard a lot of experts, and I have to tell you, a friend of mine told me, if you want to be an expert, you got to have a polo, right? You got to put a logo on it, and you got to go more than 45 minutes away from where you live, and you become an expert, all right? That's not me. I'm not an expert. I'm just a fire guy who's loved technology, grew up in technology. In fact, I'm the black sheep of my family. I'm the only one that's not like an engineer, So where we're at is I'm not an expert, so I'm not here to preach to you and tell you this is what you should be doing. I'm just here to offer an external perspective on some stuff. So why do we do all this? Why are we even here? Why is the fire service here? Look, I'm going to tell you, I started out in dispatch. This is me, military, about 80 pounds lighter. I'm sorry. But this was a deployed location. So not only did I do 911 dispatch at Charleston Air Force Base, every time I deployed out, because I was the only one that could operate computers and networking and radios, I always got tasked with setting up dispatch and running dispatch at deployed locations. So looking at baseline, right? We got a couple phones, we got computers. This is nothing, right? This is not me. This is actually one of my favorite dispatchers, Kathy Kirby. She was actually one of the last of her generation. In Charleston County, Kathy, myself, and one other dispatcher, we did 24-hour shifts in this little room. We had a computerized control console for the radio. We finally got CAD integration. Wow, right? But this was it. At the end of this legacy, what you're left with is the Consolidated Dispatch Center. Beautiful, right? Full of tons of technology, tons of information flow. They're looking at even leveraging social media, using that, seeing what people are saying, figuring out what's right, what's wrong. And really, if you walk into a center like this, compared to where we were even 10 years ago, this is nothing to where we could be. And I mean that. This is nothing compared to where we could be. So why? Everybody always has to know why. And I love starting with why. Whether it's with a firefighter explaining to why do we pull a certain hose, why do we pump at certain pressures. If they can understand the why, then they do a lot better overall. So why do we do it? I don't have to preach to you. I don't have to tell you why you're doing this. All right, I dealt with hurricanes in Charleston. Luckily, where I'm at now, I don't really have that. You have it, everything, right? I don't have to tell you. When we look at how the world's designed, how everything happens, California to me is the testing ground for everything. If it works here, it's scalable down to all of us further away that don't have the disasters you have. When I was looking at this, your campfire, they wanted to try to make it real for our people in Indiana, and they took the map of that and they laid it on top of Indianapolis, and it covered the entire city. We would have no clue how to handle that. There's not enough resources in the state of Indiana to handle that. So my hat's off, tip it to you that you're doing all this. You're ahead of the curve. But I've heard several times that you want to stay further ahead. So here's this little happy face. That's where I'm at. Again, pretty far away from where you're at. And again, East Coast, now I'm Midwest. I've had a really good perspective on some stuff. And some of that stuff you've heard about today. So I told everyone when I was doing this, there's only one slide that really mattered. So all the other stuff was just kind of leading up to this. All the words on this page, 5G, Fusion Center, leak data, you name it, If you don't know what this is and you're in the fire service, you've got to get on board. You understand? You have to be on board with this. What happens if you let somebody else run this? All right, I'll tell you. Where I'm at now, the fire department had no say in dispatch. So what do we have? A police-run dispatch center. 4 dispatchers dedicated to police. No fire dispatchers. No fire protocols. Nothing to do with helping us do our job better. So we finally integrated. We said, no, we need to have a say in this. We need to help you. We need to help you serve us better. You're all hazards. When I talk about this, in Charleston County, when we first started this auto aid group, it was neat to see going from, keep those guys off our scene to it didn't matter. It could be from 40 miles away. An engine shows up with a captain, 3 members, and they were the same. They were on the same game plan. They fell in line. They all worked together, and it was phenomenal. Like I can't even describe how you would pull that off. Exceptional leadership did that. Chief Armstrong mentioned that I was at a ground level. When all that started, I was a captain, and we were trying to figure out our very first drill. You try to pull a Mayday drill, and there's 3 engine 1s. Okay, well, that was horrible. So now we're county numbering. We're redoing everything. We're looking at interoperability, radios. You guys are already past a lot of that, and that's awesome. I see the progress of the state of California, all the things that you're doing to consolidate your fire service, but I got to caution you, you can't leave the one entity out. Dispatch. Where does every emergency call start? Right? Dispatch. So if you get involved, you start looking at CAD to CAD links, whether it's a point to point, whether you do a hub, that's not the point. I want you to think bigger than that. Again, all of us on the East Coast, we're waiting for you to prove it, right? We don't want to be the early adopters. We don't have Silicon Valley with us. We don't have all these tech startups. We don't have a lot of the talent that comes here to California. So we're looking to you to be those first adopters, the provers. After 9/11, one of the biggest lessons that came out was interoperability, right? People couldn't talk to each other. So what did a lot of agencies do? Federal government started mandating you have to be interoperable. Fusion centers became a reality. Are you connected with that? How much data flows in there? Does your data flow in there? Is this something that could be giving you that bigger operational picture? These are all questions that you need to be thinking about. And I'm going to be honest. When it comes down to when I came here to this conference, I'm really impressed with what you do. Some of this technology that you're using, it's light years ahead of what we're even thinking about. I'm happy to have MDTs. I'm happy to have a CAD. I'm happy to start looking at mapping data. But what you're doing here, this is phenomenal. And I'm going to encourage you to keep going with it. And I'm going to encourage you to get involved with some of the younger members. Some of my favorite points of contacts, I get to, Bloomington is home of Indiana University. I get to work with informatics students and some of the business students. And I love talking to the informatics students. And I'm gonna pitch the same thing to you. If you were the best fire chief in the world, the best ops chief in the world, would we ever go on another emergency again? Would we? Right? We all love to do our job. We all love to help. But I'm going to tell you, the bigger picture, predictive dispatching, getting to the point of knowing where our hazards are, targeting those hazards, doing community risk reduction, data is there. And I would even say to the point, I talk to informatics students all the time, I said, it's not going to be a firefighter that figures this out. It's going to be one of these tech kids that puts 2 pieces together and we don't even realize that the data pointed to it the whole time. So when you look at this, disruptive tech, GIS, smart buildings, I want you to start thinking about the capacity, the capability. Technology has never been as adaptable or as ready as it is today. Get involved with your universities. Get involved, again, with the younger generation. Every time I go to the informatics class, we build projects, and these kids are like, well, why don't we look at they've talked about smart buildings. Well, if the air conditioning system knows that there's people in the room, wouldn't we like to know that? Even to the point of dispatch. FAA changes a few rules. Wouldn't it be awesome that if you get to the point where someone calls 911 and says, I have a structure fire, Automated drones launch and you already got aerial visual. See if there's smoke showing right away. Could you tailor your response better that way? I know our police have talked about it. It'd be great if someone said, hey, I just got robbed by someone. They drove away in a white car. Launch a drone. Start getting aerial footage. We already start tracking people, right? It's way cheaper than helicopters. It's way better. It's instant information. And again, when you're on a scene, and I've been on some fairly large scenes in my career, your window is really small, right? So through the evolution of command, what have we gotten from? I remember when I started, the guy inside the building, behind the guy with the hose, you're in charge, you're in command. Well, they said, that's not good. You're not keeping a good operational awareness. You need to be outside the building. So then you had roaming command, right? Everybody's just walking around a building. I got to see all the sides. I got to keep an eye on my people. Can't hear the radio. Now it's transitioned to at the vehicle, in the vehicle. The further away from the scene you get, the bigger the picture, and the more time you have to process information. So when we get to all this information, can you as a scene commander process it all, right? What does a captain have? So you're riding on an apparatus to a fire. How much time do you have to review information? What's pertinent? What can you actually process in that time? It's short, right? An operational commander, the incident commander on a scene, you got a little bit more time. You're not directly involved in the operations, so you got a little more time to look at some expanded data. So some of these pre-planned programs you could get into, right? You could see extra issues. What if you got to the point where dispatch had a ton of information and all you had to do was ask for it? They had all of it. You want a 3D map of the building? You want to know how many stories it is? You want to know where alarm panels are? You want to know anything about it? They're far away from the scene. They're not tied up in the issue. They're not trying to worry about accountability. Where are my people? Let them help drive the information flow. The further away from the scene you get, it's that 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 foot view, the better you're going to be operationally. So I'm just going to leave it with this. I don't want to keep you here too long. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But I am challenging you as the lead of the fire service. And again, I'm going to get my East Coast card pulled for me from saying that. We're looking to you. We're proud of what you do. And again, this is a testing ground. If it works here, I want to take it. I want to adopt it because I don't have the issues you have. When I talked to Armstrong about, the size of your fires, our community is worried about an acre and a half that burnt. That's our worry. If it works for you, it'll work for me. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the conference. I've learned a lot. I've really enjoyed getting to know a lot of you. And I hope to see the future progress of this state, what you do. And just remember, whether we admit it or not, we're all watching you. So thank you.